Welcome back to iSelf Academy and Excel Snippet YouTube channel. Today we are about to work on Excel User Series 5.0, a Spark Shot video in Excel. This is video number 13 and we are going to work on Pivot Table. In Pivot Table we are going to see what is a calculated field and what is a calculated item. In our current data set, this is the data set that I'm going to use, and what is the Pivot Table calculated field? Calculated field is a formula which allows you to add a field or a column in your table using one or more fields that you have in your data set. You can perform any of your own formulas if you want to, or you can also perform simple math functionality and logical test with text manipulation here. And this will allow you to work on automatic calculated field insertion in Excel, and we will call this as a virtual column. In the same way, I can also create a virtual row. We term that as calculated item. Again, it is a virtual row for us, and then you can create a calculated item with your cursor row labels in here, and then you can also, it will not appear in your pivot table field list, but wherein a calculated field will appear in your pivot table field list. And once we've complete both these dimensions, we can also check whether the pivot tables or what are the calculated column and calculated items that we have created in the list of formulas below. Without further ado, let's see how we're going to build this. I'm going to build one by one. Let me take up a raw data here. I'm going to just use to insert a pivot table. If you want to know more about what is a pivot table, click the iCard above, which will allow you to give you the basics idea of what is a pivot table all about, and then all information will be shared in that particular video link. When I go back to this data, so I'm creating a product wise calculated column. Now I want to create a profit for each and every products that I have sold so far. So to do this, I'm going to go to my pivot table analysis, and then I'm going to go for my field called calculated field here. Here I can rename it whatever I want. I'm going to rename it as profit, and then I'm going to bring in two different fields here. One is the sales, and I'm going to do normal math operation, a negative or a subtraction here, and which will allow me to add it. When the moment I add this data, you can see that in the pivot table field list you see a profit coming up here, and I'm going to give an OK. That's going to add the profit for me all the way around. If you want to make sure the data looks a little better, go to the design tab above and then make it a report layout and show in tabular form here. If you want to add a chart here, give an Alt F1, which will allow you to add a chart for you. You can make all the necessary changes that is required for you. This is what a pivot table calculated field will look like. In the same way, if you want to group the data, for example, if you see I have a data in my pivot table stating that Apple 15, 15 Plus, 15 Pro Max, and then I have Moto Razr 2, Nothing Phone 2, OnePlus 10R, OnePlus 11, and Samsung Galaxy Z. I would like to combine the Apple products into one, and then I want to combine the OnePlus products into one. This is where our pivot calculation items will come into play. So again, I'm going to perform this. Again, when I want to perform this, I have to perform, if I have more than one category to add around, then I'll be performing more than once here. If I'm going to have only one category, then adding them will be an awesome part. Rule number one, it is a virtual row, and then it will not be added as a separate field list in our pivot table field list above. Let's see how we're going to do that. So I'm going to go back to the pivot table again, add a new table, and then I'm going to add the product. Again, this time around I'm going to go to the pivot table analysis calculation of items here, and then as the cursor placed in products, because I've added a product in here, it'll ask you what you want to do with it. So I'm going to just call this as Apple, and then when I come down here, I'm going to just select Apple here and then insert that, and then I'm going to make an addition of the products here, one after the one. And then now my field is ready, and I cannot create another field here, so I'm going to give an OK. That adds my field. If I want to create the OnePlus again, then I'll place the cursor in here, go back to the calculated items again, and then name them as OnePlus right now. And then in the bottom, I'm going to add the OnePlus items in one categorization, and I'm going to give an OK, and that will add a list here. And then I can just remove all the unwanted data sets here. If you want to create one more dimension in here for the other products into one, you can also do that. So I'm going to just create one more item list here called others, because I don't have a specific, or I'm only dealing with one product in that particular brand. So I'm going to add Moto, and then I'm going to add nothing phone, and I'm going to add a Samsung Galaxy here. Do I have anything other than this? I don't have anything. Then I'm going to give an OK there. So now I have categorization of data with me, so I can just select all, I can remove all of them, and I can add the categories alone here without adding a category separate column and a data set. I can get whatever I want to do with it. And if I'm going to use the existing data in my data sets, so for example, if I want to see what is the sales that I did in the same list, I can also do that with these. So what I want to do right now is I want to add not just the profit here, but also the sales here. So I'm going to just bring back the sales and profit together, and then I'm going to do the same logic for this also. I'm going to bring back the sales and profit together. The reason why I'm doing this is when I go back to this data, so now when I filter out this data, so now we can see that when I add the data here, I have the data sales and profit here. If I go for the items, so where the product came to be, normally when I hit an F2 in PivotTable, it won't allow me. Now we can see that it won't allow me here. It throws an error to me as it's a profit created from a calculated field here. Again, this is something which I've built based on the list. I can see what is the products that I've used in my formula bar above. So what are the three products? Consist of the others, OnePlus, and Apple in here. If I want to see them as a separate formula sheet additionally, then I can use the calculated field and the items using a list of formulas here. I'll go back to one of my pivot table, place the cursor in the pivot table, and create a list of formulas here. That's going to create a brand new list here, so which allows me to tell you that calculated field what I've done, and then calculated items what are the things that I've did in here. I will get a clear-cut idea if anybody uses it for the very first time, and then if you want to know what I did as a calculation here, he will see the list of formulas with these, and then he can get a fair idea about how I've created these data sets here. Again, I don't need a sales in my calculated field, but when I go back to my calculated items, so this will allow me to get our data set work better. This is how we can create a calculated field and a calculated item in a pivot table. You don't need to have a raw data which should consist of these categorizations separately in a column. And as I told you earlier, the calculated item will not appear in our pivot table field list, whereas the calculated field will appear in our pivot table field list. This is Vinod signing out from Myself Academy and Excel Snippet YouTube channel. We are watching Excel User Series 5.0 video number 30. Hope you guys learned something new. Have a great day ahead. Thank you so much.